Hi, this is Katie Weeks, an independent close to my heart maker, and I am friends with Miranda through YouTube and other close to my heart things, and specifically I had reached out to her to join my close to my heart Twisted Sisters group on YouTube, and that was probably around the winter of 2020, right before the whole pandemic started. So I've been friends with Miranda for a few years, and we've become friends and have a lot of common things. She's a teacher, I'm a teacher. Her husband recently retired from the military, and she was able to help me when my son was in the military and deployed, and answer questions for me, you know, those mom questions that people have. And so she's just a real sweetheart, and I am glad that she asked me to participate in her Out of the Blue crop this weekend. So when I thought about the theme of the crop, I kind of thought a lot about winter and snow, and you can see I'm sporting my snowman sweatshirt today because I have a snow day in Northwest Ohio. So yeah, I'm all snuggly and warm. And I'm going to do a layout that is kind of a winter layout. And because I like to twist up how we use things, I'm going to use the Celebrating You paper to make it into a winter layout. Now, the particular challenge that you have right now is the Pinterest Layout Inspired Challenge. So I went to my Pinterest board. Actually, I pinned a few things and then went to my board and found a layout that I wanted to scrap lift. What you need to do is go to your Pinterest boards and find something that you can scrap lift, whether it's a card or a scrapbook page or whatever it is. Find a project and make it your own. So I want to show you which one I chose. I chose this layout by Doreen Watkins, and it was part of an Australian blog hop a couple of years ago, I believe. She actually was inspired from the Close to My Heart retreat in October 2020. That was an album retreat with Close to My Heart, and that's where her inspiration came from, and she will be my inspiration. If you can tell, it features a lot of triangles that shape into chevrons. So I also found some inspiration for this same design in the creative collaboration group that I'm part of, and I believe it was Chris Robertson that also had worked on a similar layout there too. So I was able to get some tips from there. But just by looking at it, I could tell that she probably used 2-inch squares cut on that angle and put those across. I could tell that by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was one page. So 6 of those triangles, 6 triangles, they had to be about 2 inches each in order to fill up the 12-inch layout. So that's what I'm starting with, and I will let you see my process as I go along. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Celebrating You paper, and you can see it has a very much a birthday feel. It has, it features some balloons and presents and cupcakes, and then, you know, even words that deal with birthday. But I chose 7 different papers from here. I'm using this gradient one that's kind of ombre, and I'm flipping it upside down and using 2 of those as my base pages. And then I'm using 6 patterns. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And that's what I cut all of my squares from. And those will be cut down into the triangles. I'm also going to be using a card front pattern stencils, and I chose this particular design. I'm not sure if you can see it. It has little dots and little starburst. I thought the starburst went well with this, and it reminded me of snow. I'm attempting some sort of mixed media as a nod to Miranda because she is the mixed media queen. So I am going to stencil some white daisy ink on, and I might even play with some texture paste to kind of make it look like some snow in the background. So here I'm using a blending brush and the white daisy pigment stamp pad, and I'm going through that stencil that I told you, the card front pattern stencils, and just randomly placing it around both of my background pages. I put it at an angle so that it didn't look like the snow was falling in absolutely straight lines down. I wanted it to be more scattered looking. So I did need to set that with my craft heater, and that just sped it up a little bit. And now I'm going in with my Opaque matte texture paste and one of my palette knives. And I was careful to try not to overlap where I did the white pigment ink. I did try to make sure I made the two pages kind of flow together, and I just randomly placed it around my page, and it went on pretty fast. And I made sure that I tried to get as much of it off as I could when I was scraping it, and it dried faster than I actually thought it would. So I think I went and grabbed some lunch and came back, and it was all dry and ready to go. The next thing I did was go in and cut all of those 2-inch squares diagonally. I like doing this with a guillotine style cutter. You can do it with one of your rail cutters. Sometimes if you have a dull blade, it will scrunch up the corners though. So I really prefer to do it with one of the guillotine cutters. I got a little caught up in the mixed media stuff, and I decided why not do some splatters with some shimmer brushes. So I grabbed, I think it was a Seabrook shimmer brush. It's like a real light green, and I splattered that over the background of both of them. I also splattered some clear over both of them. And then I really wanted silver, and unfortunately, Close to My Heart does not have a silver shimmer brush, to my dismay. So I took some charcoal shimmer brush, and here you see me taking it out and starting a new shimmer brush. And I mixed the charcoal with the clear so that I could get a really light charcoal, and it looked sort of silver on the background. I really liked that. Okay, the next step that I did was on this sticker sheet. I really liked this wavy design that they had, but it was just too bold, and I wanted it toned down. And Janice Gahuli has shown this on her videos a number of times. She just goes over any of the pattern papers, or in this case, a sticker with white daisy pigment ink, and it really softens it down. So that's what I did. And then I cut those two swirls in half so that I could use them as my border along the top and bottom of each page. And I also used some silver shimmer trim along the bottom so that you would see that above the scallop of that sticker that I toned down with the white pigment ink. And I really liked the look of it. So yeah, I get tips from all sorts of people. This was a Janice Gahuli tip. If you are creating along during this crop and taking on that Pinterest inspired challenge, I encourage you to take a screenshot of the Pinterest inspiration that you have along with your creation and post those in the January Out of the Blues virtual crop layout share album. It is pinned up under featured for this My Scrappy Life group, and I think everybody would love to see what you create. So make sure you share with everybody what you do for your layout challenge. Okay, so here I'm just taking a pencil and drawing some lines. I went 6 inches up and down and side to side. And then I did lines at 3.5 and 8.5 across the horizontal, going left to right. And I did that on both pages. With doing that, that's going to help me line up my chevrons. And you'll see when I start laying down all the triangles, how it helps me line up the chevrons. And really at the end, I only erased 2 little spots. It was the up and down, above and below at the 6-inch mark. That's all I had to erase because everything else is covered up with all of those triangles. So this is kind of the monotonous part. I started at that 6-inch in the very center and all the way up at the 8.5-inch mark. And you will see me struggle with which way the triangles go every once in a while. And you'll see me checking myself to make sure things go up, down, up, down, up, down, like they're supposed to. And so I kind of play with stuff. I never stop rearranging these. And I don't know why I beat myself up over this process, because so many of them are actually covered up with photos at the end that it probably didn't make as much difference as what I made it. I don't know. I complicated it a little bit too much for myself, but I think they looked really nice when I had them on, but most of them do get covered up, let's be honest. So here I am creating, and you'll see I turned them the wrong way because I don't know what a chevron looks like, and I made 3 diamonds. Kind of a cool pattern, but not what I'm supposed to do. And so I fixed those back. And as I'm doing this, each row, I start usually in the center, and it's right at that intersection of those lines. So the straight lines that go across the center of each chevron are the straight lines that I drew on the background at 3.5, 6, and 8.5 inches. So those lines got totally covered up. And then I go through and I glue all of the pieces down. And here you can see me checking myself that I have everything going up and down properly. Once I finish the left-hand side, I put down my right side base, and I made sure to have it side by side so that I could see what was on the edge of my left-hand layout, so that I didn't have the exact same pattern matched up beside it on the center of my layout. So you see there, like that lagoon is on the left. I made sure I had a white beside it. I just made sure that it kind of was still random enough as the pattern went across. And again, I'm making diamonds. I don't know why. I just can't figure out which way to turn all of my triangles sometimes. Once I have it figured out, then I go through and I start gluing them down. Sorry, my head got in there, but you really got to get over those lines to make sure you get started and that you're very straight. So I go through and glue down all the rest of my triangles into chevron pattern. Okay, so here's a quick look for you at both pages side by side with all the chevrons, and it's going to get covered up by a bunch of pictures. I pulled out some glacier and lagoon. I'm using the light side of both of those cardstocks. I also have some white and silver glitter paper, and I'm going to cut some titles that I created on Cricut Design Space, and I would like to actually share this file with you. I've got 4 different titles, and if you use the Close to My Heart Cricut collections and cartridges that we've had in the past, all of these titles were based using their fonts. So I've created them. I have the little shadow bubbles behind them, and you are welcome to use those too. So I laid out everything just like the inspiration piece that I got from Doreen Watkins on Pinterest, and I cut the cardstock and glitter paper, I cut the scraps after I cut my Cricut pieces, and that's what I'm using to make all of my photo mats. I did them 4 1/8 by 6 1/8 and 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 so that they were double matted. And then on the sides, I had 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 and 3 1/4, 4 1/4. When I was gluing cardstock to the glitter paper on the titles and on photo mats, I always used a wet glue. I used the Barely Art glue. And when I was overlapping these two pictures on the right-hand side, I used foam tape, and I actually left one with the backing still on it. And that way, when it overlapped, I could still slide a picture underneath it. I'm actually only going to be using one title on this scrapbook page. I just don't know which title I'm going to use yet. I'm waiting to find out what pictures I put on my layout. So I went ahead and cut all of them. The first one is Let the Snow Days Begin. I think I had Do You Want to Build a Snowman, Baby It's Cold Outside, and Feeling Frosty. And the last thing I did to my layout was I brought in the sticker sheet, and there were these little bursts that were on the whites and blues, and I thought they kind of looked like snowballs or, something fun and festive. And so I brought those in and just put those randomly around the page. Both pages, actually. And voila, here's my final layout. So did I conquer the Pinterest inspired challenge? I think so. And here are the a close-up of those titles. If you've enjoyed this video, I would like you to go ahead and hit that like, give me a thumbs up. If you are not one of my current subscribers, please consider subscribing to my channel, turning on the bells for notifications. And if you want to leave a sweet comment or share this with a crafty friend, I would love for you to do that too.